Hey, welcome to another episode of Mediocre Dads. I am your host, Quan. I go by Q, of course. And as you can tell, I do have another special guest with me. Important, big deal for Mediocre Dads, of course, because we're expanding and we're trying to bring on more people, talk to more dads rather than just me talking to a camera, because I know it can get pretty boring and probably a little lame sometimes. So, but I'm appreciative for you to be joining us here on this episode of Mediocre Dads. So let's get right into it. So this guest here, his name's Gabriel, and he has a lot of experience within the education system in particular. And so I really want with this episode to kind of talk to him about education and for fathers, for new fathers, especially more than so, because my girls are younger and they're just getting into school and all that thought process before was never a thing I really thought about until literally the first day of school. First day of school, I'm sitting there thinking like, oh man, I've never actually sat down and thought like, where do I want my daughters to go to school? And what type of education do I want them to get? Meaning like, do I want a Montessori? Do I want a charter school? Do I want a private school? And if I want to do a private school, can I afford a private school? All those different things, all those different questions that parents don't think about until it's most times too late. Or if you're a planner, like some other families out there, then good on you. But anyway, before we get too deep into the conversation, I start taking the mic. I'm gonna let Gabriel kind of let him introduce himself and let him explain a little bit who he is and his background. Gabriel, take away, man.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me, for having me here and accepting my request to be on your show. I've watched a few episodes of your show and I was so taken by how comfortable you are with what you do. And the message that you're trying to get out there and the message that I have that I would like for parents, first-time parents, and those who are co-parenting to receive through you. It is a pleasure to have you here to be a representative of the work that we do, especially for me. Thank you so much. My name is Gabriel Thomas Spartan. I am the owner of First Time Parent Company. I not only help first-time parents, I also help parents who are co-parenting to raise happy, healthy, and self-sufficient children without added stress. I'm also a father to a beautiful little girl who is 22 months old. Her name is Charlotte. My wife, Siren, is the reason that I have that amazing girl that I'm so proud of. And I am also a very proud family man. Of course, a businessman. I've been teaching now for the past 20 years, both in the United States and in China, from K through 12, college, university, and beyond. I lived in China for over 10 years. The goal was to go there for 5 years to expand my horizons. Yeah. I can call you Q, right?
Yes, of course.
So we talked about that just a little bit before we started, that I wanted to go there for 5 years, and that's you think you're there for 5 years and you'll come back. That didn't happen. I ended up staying for over 10 years. I got married to my beautiful wife, Siren. We had an incredible life there. And then just before the COVID pandemic hit, we came to the United States and specifically Las Vegas, where we started our life again. And now we have our beautiful daughter and started the company to help first-time parents, those who are co-parenting. And here we are today talking about it. And I'm hoping that I can get my message out there to all of you first-time parents, those of you who are co-parenting, that yes, life can be challenging if you don't have the right type of information today. Now, for me to be a teacher, full-time teacher, while running my company full-time, that allows me very little time to sleep, but that is not the most important thing in my life. It is to serve, it is to give, it is to leave a legacy behind, not only just for my daughter and for my wife, but to share the knowledge with the world, that I've received this knowledge from various sources, from probably the beginning of time that I can remember, from the time of Alexander the Great until today. I read a lot. I make sure that I share a lot, because the information that I have isn't for me to keep. The knowledge that we have to share it with the world so that we can leave this world in better hands than the way we found it. And that is why I am here today talking to you. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. So kind of real quick, kind of go over a few things. So you said you've been teaching for over 20 years. What grade do you teach?
I started from kindergarten all the way to 12, and then I went to college and university, and then beyond that, to like car dealerships and stuff like that. And that was in China.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
What out of all those grade group or those year groups, what's your favorite one to teach?
I'm going to be very honest with you here. When I wanted to become a teacher at the age of 4, that was inspired by my grandmother, who was a math teacher of 34 years. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be like her. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but it was the qualities that she embodied that was given to her by the profession of teaching that when I realized later on, much, much later, decades later, that that's what I wanted, to embody those qualities, those characteristics. It just happened that she was a teacher. I never specified that I wanted to teach kindergarten or 5th grade or gifted students, special ed students, nothing of that sort. All I wanted to become was a teacher. And as I was growing up, I realized that I wanted to serve the human race, not just to have a career and have a retirement, but to help people who need my help. And if I'm this inspired and if I am this educated, then I shouldn't limit myself to just one group or one demographic. I should be a teacher for all. And so that child that dreamed at age 4 is still inside of me at age 45.
Yeah.
So for me to say that I want to teach, and let's say I'm in Las Vegas right now, in Henderson versus North Las Vegas, I never specified that. I never specified what age groups, whether it was college or university. If you're serving, you have to serve all. But if you're serving your own ego and then you specify because you want to be in a comfort zone. For me, being comfortable is death. I have to be uncomfortable to be comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
If I can't challenge myself, if I can't challenge humanity, the very people that I serve to be better than me, then what good am I to society as a teacher? Right?
100%. No, yeah, I got you. When I first graduated high school, when I graduated high school back in 2013, I had a English teacher and a history teacher. The English teacher, she had her doctorate in English, so she was like very well educated. And so like she didn't have to be at this high school. You know what I mean? Like, from my understanding, it was very limited understanding. From my understanding, she was making us almost as the principal was. And so I was like, I don't understand. Like, she's not a principal. She's not in charge. She's just an English teacher, but she has higher education than my principal of the school. And I bring that up because I was kind of fascinated by that. And so talking to her and then talking to my history teacher, because I love history, I was like, well, kind of makes sense, I guess. It's meant to be a history teacher. So I started my college career going to be a history teacher. I got a good way through it. I would say halfway through it. And I was like, nope, I'm good. Hey, and here's why, truthfully, because I had a college professor. It was my first history class that I was taking, and I was really excited for it. And I was in tune with it, studying, doing what I had to do, and we had to write these papers often, which I didn't know was a thing in history class, that you had to write papers. But anyway, I had to write a lot of these papers, and I'm writing these papers. I'm giving it my all, and he would just come back, and I would just be bad grade after bad grade after bad grade. And I'm like, hey man, I'm really trying, you know what I mean? I'm like, and I'm doing online school because I'm active duty military. So I'm like, I'm really trying here. was like, can you just give me some more feedback to kind of tell me what I need to do so I can really actually, hone in what's correct what I'm doing wrong here. I was like, also, he was really hyper fixating on the grammar part, which I'm not going to say grammar is very important. I know grammar is very important, but my biggest thing was at the time was I was like, well, is the content of the paper, like, am I getting the content right? You know what I mean? Like, am I getting that correct at least so I can, one, feel better about that, and then build my confidence, and then focus on the grammar. Anyway, all that led to, I was like, you know what? I ended up failing that class. I was going to take it again, and it was going to be the same professor. And I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm done. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I stopped. And so, but that kind of my college career kept progressing into what it is currently, which is a business administration degree. And I realized, I was like, you know what? Similar to what you said was, maybe it wasn't the teacher aspect that I wanted, but it was the influence, the impact that the teachers had, the things that they learned, the ability just to communicate with almost anybody, especially a young teenager such as myself, who was a pain in the butt. That be able to have that skill to me was what I wanted, and what I wanted to do. And I thought at first the teacher was the only person or group of people who could do it. And so fast forward, I'm military. I have my own way of being able to impact younger people now. So, but no, I just found that very interesting, and I felt like I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you mentioned that you help, first time parents, and then also maybe co-parents. So, do you come across a lot of people who come to you who are co-parents, and I imagine when I imagine co-parent, kind of give you a definition in my head, I guess. I imagine co-parent. I imagine someone who are two people who decided they weren't going to be together. Maybe they got divorced, whatever, or they were dating, found out they were pregnant, and they're like, hey, we don't work, but we have this kid we're bringing into this world. So do you find yourself talking to more co-parents and helping more co-parents, or parents who are, say, married and in all intents and purposes have a stable home? And I do this, a stable home, right? But have a stable home in their own sense, if that makes sense. So
thank you very much for this question. It's very in depth, and thank you for taking the time to think about this question. And I would like to answer it in this way. Let's talk about first-time parents. And I'm going to address your viewers and listeners, if that's okay as well.
Oh, that's perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to this amazing podcast that I'm enjoying being a part of. So I hope you're having fun watching us, and maybe you can share with us your experiences. This is how life is at the moment. First-time parents, to me, it seems that they're very young mentally, and they're even less prepared than first-time parents who were young in the 90s. The reason is people today are very much inundated with too much information and not enough specific information. For example, let's say that we're talking about first-time parents today. The very first question I ask is, how do you prepare for your child? Or how are you prepared? Or how are you preparing, depending on where they are with their plans and the lady's pregnancy and such. Now, I'm talking to you from a very traditional family sense of husband and wife, okay? So when I ask that question, they don't know where to start to give me an answer. And so I break it down even further, such as, are you prepared financially for your child? They look at me like, yeah, I work. No, that's not what I mean. What I'm trying to ask you is this: have you saved money for your child's first year? And so then I get an answer like, well. It starts with well, right? That tells me already that you're not prepared. Or I get this one: yes, I've prepared the room.
Mm. I hope, real quick to interrupt you. If you're a first time parent, I'm just going to be really honest with you. You're not going to use that room. that room that you have set up for your child, like all they do it in the movies to set up this room. They're like, oh my gosh, we're bringing in baby and all this. And I'm like, that child might use that room for a nap. I'm just going to be honest with you. At least in my personal case, my daughter, my youngest, she is 18 months. No, well, what is it? She'll be 2 in October. I'm not going to do math, but she'll be 2 in October. 2 in October, and she sleeps in her crib, but her crib's in the corner of my room, right? So like we have a whole room dedicated for her, but for this whole time she's been alive, she plays in that room. There's a bunch of toys on the floor and that room's empty. That's it. Like that is all of it. So like, hey, sorry, I interrupted, but like first time.
No, you did not interrupt. You brought color and reality to what I was going to say. Thank you very much for that.
The reality is I don't think you're going to use the room, but I know it makes you feel better to set the room up and to decorate it and do whatever those things are. So
what I want to say is, with all truth and honesty, we're both fathers. And those of you who are first-time parents, don't get this idea that your wife, now again, I'm going from a traditional sense of family of husband and wife, okay? I hope I don't offend anyone, and that is not my goal to do so. If anyone gets left out in this very conversation, I do apologize in advance. But I'm talking to you from a traditional sense. Let's focus on that. What I want to tell you, first-time parents, is don't have these preconceived notions. Don't go into bringing a child into this world with no plan. I'm going to tell you from my perspective, 2 years before my daughter Charlotte was born, I planned with my wife for the first 7 years of my daughter's life. The first 7 years of a child's life is the blueprint for the rest of his or her life. What he or she hears, sees, touches, experiences becomes the rest of this child's life. And when that child grows up, that person will raise his or her family the way you taught your child. Nothing different. Perhaps maybe a few things that they will experience in life and maybe bring some color and differentiation to it, but it was all you're doing. From my perspective, personally, do your homework. Don't just listen to opinions. Don't tell me that when you have your child that you will start implementing your plan of first 7 years. You start. The moment you talk about having a child, the first thing you should do is go get a blood test. I'll tell you for the reasons why. You don't know what's in your body. Fix yourself before you hurt the child that is about to come to this world, who could possibly cure cancer, who could do something so incredible for humanity that our brains can't even fathom at the moment. So don't take away from that child and that child's future by not having yourself ready first. And then I started preparing my wife physically, mentally, spiritually. Now, if you go to my website, shameless plug, but it's necessary because we're talking about my company and being that this is my interview. My website is called firsttimemomdad.com. Our company is called First Time Parent. When you go there, you will find all of my social media. Our Facebook is the most important one for you right now, is that you will see our newsletter. Every single month, I write a newsletter. The very first one is thinking about the child, then preparing my wife while I'm still believing in my mind that I am going to have a daughter. I'm going to name her Charlotte. She will be born before summer. Okay. It happened. It all happened. But let me tell you, my daughter was born at the end of pandemic. at the beginning of the formula shortage. She was born 6 weeks early. My wife was supposed to be induced 2 weeks before, but then it was emergency C-section because she lost 5% placenta within like 2-3 days. Our baby's life was in danger. And it was a Friday night such as this that the nurse came and told us that you're going to be parents tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are planning and are about to have your first child, don't be so naive. The moment that you learn that you're going to be parents, especially for you fathers out there, take care of your wife or girlfriend or your significant other. If I faltered even for a second, if I procrastinated for a moment, if I missed my wife's diet in some way, or I didn't call her or put her in this amazing circle that took care of her while I wasn't there at work, I could have lost my wife. I could have lost my daughter, who was born 6 weeks early, nearly 4 pounds, a tiny, tiny baby. Now, on my website, what you will find is my YouTube channel that I chronicled before my daughter was even in this world in any way, so far with 190 videos.
Oh, wow.
As movie style as you can possibly make it. I've chronicled her entire journey. You will see her. She was a tiny little thing. Now, yes, I have the room. What if there was a miscarriage? What good would that room be if my wife and my daughter didn't make it? What if my daughter didn't make it? I don't think I would have survived another day seeing one or the other not being here, because I invested so much time and effort in believing that it came true, but I didn't spend time and money on material things. Being a naive person who lacked education, I educated myself, and then we talked about our family to expand the family, and then I prepared my wife for it. I mean, both of us, we're athletic, very, very athletic, and you will see that on the YouTube channel called Finally, I'm a Dad, on my business website. How we prepared for this physically. We were already fit. We went to almost vegan and vegetarianism just to make sure that our baby would be healthy. It takes, don't say it takes sacrifices, it doesn't. What my daughter did was she made us better.
Yes.
Before she was even here. Before she was physically here, I was holding her in my arms and kissing her and just being in love with her until I actually had her. But you know what? When my daughter was born, she was in neonatal intensive care unit for 11 days and nights. The hardest thing was I brought my wife home, and as she gets inside the vehicle, she says, "We came here with a baby, now we're going home empty-handed." I said, "Don't you ever say that." I had to be there for my wife. When she said that, I mean, I was in pieces, but I had to keep myself together for the sake of her well-being and just be supportive, to listen to her, to give her the rest that she needed. When I would go to work while I'm, working on my business, going to like Costco, shopping, cooking, cleaning, taking care of my wife, taking her milk to NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, feeding our baby, changing her, coming home. All this I planned for. It didn't just happen. In my mind, I went through it. Physically, I made sure that I was doing most of these things. Yeah, one or two things that happened was that my daughter was in NICU. But then I was prepared physically for it, mentally for it, and all the demands that were put on me by myself. I made sure that I took care of it. Now, had I faltered even for a second, I'm sure I would have lost one or the other, or something would have gone wrong. And by the way, when we left the hospital, they gave us less than half a can of baby formula. That's it. The only thing that I wasn't prepared for was for my baby to be born 6 weeks early. We were ready for 2 weeks early and everything was going to be hunky-dory.
Yeah.
But then a C-section I wasn't ready for. Had I prepared myself from an educational perspective? Yes. Was I ready for it in real life? Absolutely not, because my wife was priority in the baby that she was carrying. And I didn't know what was going to happen. No one does until you have the baby and she's sutured and ready to go. But I had to be prepared for that. So ladies and gentlemen, if I'm scaring you, I'm telling you the truth. And this is just coming from me. So when I talk to first-time parents and they say, yeah, my mom's going to help take care of my baby, and I talk to the man and I say, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to work. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But let me tell you something. You can give your child to so many people to raise. It doesn't take a village to raise a child. It takes a loving mother and a loving father to raise a child who will love you just as much. You give that child to a village to raise, that child will become a villager. Take it as you will.
Oh, no, I like that. I like that.
You need to be responsible, because when that child grows up and there's no connection between the two of you, you did that. If that child is more connected to the grandparents, but you were supposed to be the parents, something went wrong there. You have to reflect. But when you talk to me, now we're talking about damage control. When you're acquiring my services, which I am available to all. And I have to tell you that a lot of people come to me and they're asking me for damage control. And so we have to unpeel this onion. We have to go backwards. And then from where they are to where they would like to be, all the way back to the moment where they sort of gave their child to daycare, to grandparents, to this babysitter, to that babysitter. Everybody brings in a little something to that child's life. And that little child is a sponge. And that child takes everything, good or bad. I wanted my daughter to understand our smell, the way we hold her, to make sure that when she looks at us, we look at her, she knows what to do and what not to do. All these things, extremely important. Take care of these things. The first 7 years of a child's life is the most important. And if you can't commit to that, then maybe you should take some time. Just take some time and study a little bit, talk a little bit more to people who are more educated than you in this field. So this way, when you have your child, you're more than ready. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I appreciate that thorough answer, man. That's so awesome. So I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know what I was gonna get, right? So I know some of y'all may be like, oh, we planned this. I promise you, I didn't know what I was gonna get. He didn't know any of the questions I was gonna ask him. So no. Like this is freaking awesome. So I with what you just said, I wanted to kind of go over two things. So one, you mentioned mentality, and one of the things that I've noticed when it comes to mentality, especially with parenting, is for me, it was very hard to put myself mentally in the position to succeed as a parent. And what I mean by that is thinking from the perspective is like, okay, I have a kid, and what is my role as a father to my daughter, and then to my wife, and then to my work, because that, and providing and all these things, right? So like mentally trying to prepare for that, but then, they don't have these tangible things in front of you that's not actually real, right? And a lot of that didn't become real for me until I'm holding my so when my first daughter was born and in 2018, I'm holding her in my arms, and I can't believe like this little human I helped create, and I'm just like, oh wow, okay, this became a little more realer than I expected, because you see your wife pregnant, and you're like, man, you're growing a baby. It's like, yeah, I've seen the movies, like I guess, and then you see them hold the baby and it's all perfectly clean baby, but that's not real life. They hand you the baby, that baby's all dirty. They kind of clean it off, make sure the baby's good, and they hand it to you, and you're just like, oh shoot, this is my baby right here. And like the doctors and the nurses, they've delivered so many babies before. They're just kind of like, this is just another kid here. This is yours. You know what I mean? So when you mention mentality, right? How do you recommend new parents prepare for that? Or even parents who are, say, experienced parents who have, one or two kids, but they're planning to have more kids, right? So how do they mentally prepare for that? I'm not gonna call it burden, but that new journey they're about to take on.
If you want to embark on this journey of becoming first-time parents, let's just call it first-time parents, not those who are going to be parents for the third, fourth time. Mm-hmm. Things are going to be different whether you're first-time parent or fourth-time parent, because look at where we are today versus where we were 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Right? You will prepare differently this year than you did pre-COVID.
100%.
There are more gadgets that take your attention away from your children than ever before. I mean, people are putting snorkels on their faces. They've got iPods and iPads and knee pads. And I mean, seriously, what is happening?
All this technology in their face. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are going to be first-time parents, how do you prepare mentally? I'm going to ask you that question. How would you, in 2024, prepare yourself mentally to be holding your child in 2025 and educating that child for the first 7 years by yourselves, you and your wife? How will you do that? When I ask you this sort of philosophical question, now I think the gears are turning. Versus, we're going to have a child and my mom's going to raise that child. That's not how parenting works. How you were raised, let's say you're 25 years old and you want to have a child by the time you're 26. How your mom raised you 26 years ago is different than 26 years later.
100%.
Don't think a person from the past can raise the future according to what you want, because you don't know what you want. Therefore, you will get what you get since you didn't plan properly. You want to plan mentally for this child before you do so spiritually and physically. Write it down on paper. I am going to have my first child, let's say, February of 2025. That's your affirmation. Put it on a wall. Look at it every single day. Visualize that. Bring that to life. That's your mind at work. And that's when gears start to turn and you write more things, such as, I would like to have for my daughter. I was very specific. My daughter. What I wanted for the first 7 years. And what I wanted was to remove everybody out of my life, just distance the good people, remove the dark people, but have my child be the center of attention for me and my wife, where we educate the child. And how would we do that? A lot of parents don't even know where to start. And why do you think I exist? My company exists for a reason, because maybe you're thinking I'm too busy. Now, becoming parents and procreating are two different things. Just to have a child for the sake of having a child versus committing to parenthood are two separate things. We don't learn that in school from K through 12, college, university. When do we ever have that conversation in school? And now more and more kids are being educated online. When do you even have time to discuss such a thing? How about budgeting? Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you, again, right now we're talking about first-time parenting, not co-parenting. My daughter, Charlotte, with the insurance that I do have, she cost me $20,000. When I ask you, how have you prepared financially for your child? or have you prepared? Please don't tell me that you have a job and you have insurance. That can cover only so much. That child will go to NICU. You will have to have a separate room for your wife. And then once the baby is born, then you three will have your own room to practice parenting and all this other stuff. These little things add up. And let me tell you something. I attended this baby expo called the Las Vegas Baby Expo. Mm-hmm. And in one of the brochures, I made sure that I tell people every little thing that I spent money on, that it came to $20,000, from genetic testing to blood tests to everything else. Everything that I saved up for my daughter. And by the way, people told me, no more than $4,000 to $5,000.
Wow.
This is not including diapers, not including clothes, not including formula. Okay? This is just from the time where your wife goes to do blood tests, blood work, and all this other stuff until the baby's born and the baby's brought home. That costs you about $20,000. Maybe a little less, hopefully not more. Mm-hmm. But I will forego the specifics here. You need to have money saved up. And what I saved up, I spent it all. And you know what? It was a wise decision that I saved more than what people told me to save, because all of it, and I mean all of it, was spent to the penny, okay?
Yeah.
While owing taxes, while not getting child tax credit, okay? Mm-hmm. While the formula shortage is happening, while they're raising the prices of formula. Think before you go forward with parenting. Are you really prepared to take on this challenge? Don't depend on somebody who gives you their word that, yeah, I'll help you. What are you going to do? Because that's your child. That's my question.
I think a lot of, I won't say a lot of people, but in the military in particular, I know a lot of people who have this idea of in their head, right? And it's just an idea of what being a parent is and what it looks like for them. And they're kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to go be a parent. And like, that's it. Such and such is doing it. They're doing it. They're doing it. I'm going to go do it too. I'm going to be a parent. Like me and my loved one, me and my significant other, we've been together for X amount of time and we want a kid and we're ready to do that. And it's always funny because I'll approach the conversation of like, well, hey, like, what makes you think you're ready to be a parent? Like your age or because how you see those individuals that you just pointed out now, that took some time to get there before it just didn't magically happen. It didn't occur, right? Their baby didn't come and then boom, these people that you recognize as like, man, these are such great parents. Now that there took some time. There had to be some planning. There had to be some tough conversations that had to happen before they got there. It just didn't occur. And those people that I'm generally talking to, they're kind of like, oh, well, I mean, I don't know. Like, everybody's having kids. Like how hard can it be? And I'm like, oh man, you have no idea. You have no idea. Like, and that's what when I mentioned mentally, like, I try to, paint a picture for them. And I don't want it to be negative, but I want the picture that I paint to be realistic and give them an idea of like, okay, hey, like, I'm not just saying this because like, hey, don't have kids. No, I promise you, being a father, being a dad is the best thing in the whole world. And for me, that's what the Lord put me on this earth to do, is to be a dad. And I love that opportunity every day that I have to do it. But that's not everybody, or everybody's not me. So, right. So like, I look for opportunities to grow. I look for opportunities to prove to be the best dad that I can be. But there's a lot of these young people that I talk to. They're just kind of like, well, that's just kind of the next step in life, right? Like I have this career, if you will, in the military, and then I've been doing it for 4 to 5 years. I've been married for 3, and the next part of my life is to buy a house, have a kid, and then kind of just go on from there. And I'm like, sure, that may be the next step, but like,
the American dream.
right? Yeah, right. You're like, that may be the next step, but like, let's
Yeah.
back up here real quick and let's think about this. When I had when I found out my wife was pregnant for my first daughter, there was a moment of reality where I was like, oh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not prepared for this. Like as you mentioned, like financially, like I wish somebody would have told me and sat me down and said, hey, like, have you been saving money up for your kid? I didn't start saving until my daughter was born. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, I'm kind of already behind the power curve here. Right. Cause I hear like some of my closest friends, and I'll be like, hey, how much do you guys have like saved up for your kid? And they're like, oh, well, I started early on, and they tell me the number. I won't expose their business here, but they tell me the number, and I'm like, oh wow, that's a lot of money that I wish I would have known that I needed to do. Like, legitimately, I wish I needed to plan that. I just thought, you had a kid and then you kind of just figured it out from there. So again, it's crazy you bring all these things up because, like I said, like a lot of it is what I did, and I wish that I had something like this conversation to hear. I could hear this conversation, right? To be like, oh, okay, I need to plan this out. I need to kind of sit down, especially with my partner, and talk these things through. So kind of shifting here. When it comes to co-parenting, right? So I know, based off what I just told you, right? Kind of the soldiers that I talk to, I think you can guess what ends up happening. 9 times out of 10, most of them don't stay together with that significant other, that spouse of theirs. Something happens, whatever the case might be, and now they're into this realm of like, hey, like, I may not like you, but we created this human being together. And based off their own personal experiences, they're like, I don't want to be like my mom, or I don't want to be like my dad and not let you be a part of our child's life. So we have to figure out how we can come together, aka co-parent, and still raise this kid, but still also, be able to exist in the same room together. Right. So with co-parenting like that, right? When this couple, I don't know if it's a couple that usually approaches you or just one of them approaches you, say, hey, I'm trying to figure this out with my ex or whatever. But if a couple approaches you and they say, hey, this is where we're at in our predicament, and we're trying to prevent something becoming worse than it currently is, meaning, hey, we want to figure out how to co-parent, but we just don't know what that looks like. Because everybody on the internet may have an idea. This is what co-parenting looks like. Look, I'm hanging out with my, if you're on Instagram, you may see it like, I'm hanging out with my ex-husband's freaking new wife. And that looks good, but I'm here to tell you the internet's a lie. So, but like giving them reality, what does that look like for you? And what's the first thing you tell new parents who are trying to learn how to co-parent?
I appreciate it so much. I really enjoy listening to you and talking to you, by the way. It's just such an honor.
Oh, thank you.
Man, you're giving me goosebumps here. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are perhaps younger and you grew up in this age of the internet and social media and such, don't fall for what you see and what you read, because that isn't reality. People want likes without being liked. They want fans and such. There are gimmicks and such that they follow, and you fall for that, and you think, oh, everything is going to be great. Mm-hmm. The reality of parenting, of parenthood, of co-parenting is a lot different. Now, so this is what I did. When I was building my company, I went through 71 lawyers, family lawyers, with a specific set of goals in mind to build my business, First Time Parent, which you will find on firsttimemomdad.com, with a specific set of goals in mind where I wanted to work with them so that we build something to help not just those who are first-time parents, but those who are co-parenting, because in the world that we live in today, or since the 45 years of my life, I've never heard anything about co-parenting. And I wanted to give back and to help those children who are in between two different homes, the mom and dad, the parents who need help. And there's nothing out there. It was just everything that I do, it's woven so tightly together that my company couldn't possibly exist without me being a teacher or not having written the 10 books that I have in the past 20 months and all this other stuff. It's all together. Now, not working with those who are co-parenting, it would have been a disservice. And so therefore, I created this with one lawyer. Out of 71, I found one who wanted to not only work with me, but to help people like yourselves who are co-parenting. The reality of that world is that there's lawyers involved, mediators involved, the court system is involved, two sets of parents, two different homes, two parents who have their own lives. You've got two different houses. How do parents deal with that? Okay, that's not what you see on Instagram. That's not what you read about on Twitter. No one even talks about it because I feel parents don't want to share that part because they feel that no one will give them the credit that they deserve for doing the hard work that they do, where they are parents one at a time, separately, many, just a few times a week, maybe a few times a month. So for those of you, first of all, if you're in relationships don't last forever unless you work on it. Parenting is not where you give your child to so many people. And when you're co-parenting, the reality of parenting sets in a way that you feel lost. You're inundated with so much information. Everyone's got their opinions. Now, with the family lawyer that I work with, her name is Ashley, and she's like my sister. She's a dear, dear friend. I wanted to build a course, just like I did on my website, multiple sessions where I sit with the husband and the wife that are no longer together, or the couple that are no longer together, or those that brought the baby into the world but don't seem to be compatible. I sit with them separately. They each blame the other person. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are co-parenting, I'm begging you, please don't blame the other person in front of your child. Don't blame each other whether the child is present or not. I don't need you to talk at each other. Life is already tough enough. Don't talk at each other. Don't shout, don't point. Don't try to win the favor of your child over the other parent. Sit with one another. Communicate with one another. I'm hoping that, yes, things will work out. You guys get back together. You'll have that normal family. But I don't know your reality. What I want to say is that child should have, or those children should have, two loving homes. You're still parents. Once upon a time, you at least tolerated one another. Maybe now you don't get along, but you have to for the sake of your child or your children. Think of their future. How about all of you move forward with a positive mindset towards the future of that child, where you are the prime examples that this child or these children want to be like? How about that? And for those of you, if you think co-parenting is what you see on Instagram or Facebook or something, where exes are hanging out and kids are having a good time, think of how you would want to do this. Okay, it's not about getting likes. That child needs love, or those children need to be loved by you, not a couple of people pressing hearts. Now, this is what's going to happen. So in the world of co-parenting, a lot of times again, going into this traditional sense of family of husband and wife, okay? Let's just stick with that. These two people don't get along. They go to a family lawyer. They can't afford the family lawyer because this person is, according to them and their bank account, they're too expensive and they can't afford, and they think they can do it all by themselves. Perhaps the court system will appoint you a mediator where that person will sit with you with paperwork and then set boundaries and rules, whatever you agree to, towards your child. Now, this mediator can charge you whatever this person wants. Again, just as expensive as a lawyer. I wanted to be somebody that's not a psychologist, not a therapist, not a mediator, not a lawyer, but a husband, a teacher, a father, a businessman, but more than anything, a human being who's here to help you without the paperwork that the court system will make me fill out for you. For example, for those of you not familiar, the holidays are broken up, even years and odd years. Your birthday, your significant, once upon a time, significant other person's birthday. These are all broken up. So that child will hardly ever see a holiday where both sets of parents are together. Once you go into the court system, things become a lot more complicated. I ask you, if you can, if you need help, seek my help, because I'm here for you. I'm a coach, a first-time parent coach, and a co-parenting coach. And I have plans in place. I have classes for both of you, both first-time parents and those who are co-parenting, to help you through this journey. A person who went through 71 lawyers to find you one to work with that I trust. That should say something that you need to trust me. If you do not, I've provided all of you, both first-time parents and co-parent, those of you that are looking for information, I've provided you with 100 hours of quality information, both video, audio, and text, whatever you choose, and multiple medias, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or actually 2 YouTube channels, Facebook, Instagram, or I'm going to put the TikTok as well. Or the newsletter, Power Parenting newsletter. That's what I write every month. Read those. It's 100 hours. And if you don't think so, it's probably more than 200 hours. If you actually really think about everything that you read, everything you watch, and with the quality that I present to you for absolutely free, take advantage of that. But yes, it may not be specific to your family. Therefore, if you need my help, seek my help before things go out of hand. Because once you're at the mercy of the court system, things will take a turn for, hopefully for the better, but what are the chances? You want to risk it? That's up to you. But if you want to prevent something, then come to a person like me or professionals like myself. I mean, I know for one thing that my company wouldn't exist if I didn't want to help people like you. But if I am here, I made sure that I sit with this family lawyer and my webmaster and the web designer that I work with. They're all credited at the end of my website, firsttimemomdad.com. And I talked to them about the pricing. And we lowered it to a point where I wanted to serve humanity, not to fatten my pockets and buy my ivory tower. What good is that if I'm no good to humanity? The humanity in me wouldn't allow me to charge you 10 times what I'm supposed to charge you, which is a lot lower because of the services I provide. But I want this service to be provided for you in a way where you feel comfortable, that you don't feel alienated, you don't feel discouraged, and you don't compare me to somebody else who wants to take everything from you for just a little bit of information. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It's awesome in how much detail you go into, because I think a lot of people need to hear this. A lot of people, they want to hear the details. They want to hear how the toy is made, right? They want all these things because, you mentioned it, right? On social media, it's just a gloss over it's like a video, and within that video, someone takes a picture and they says, this is what parenting is. And everyone was like, all right, as long as I follow this picture, I guess I'm good. But in reality is, you didn't see everything that led up to that moment of that picture when that picture was taken. And you didn't see everything that was after that happened of when that picture was taken within that video. And so like the details are important. And I appreciate all the details that you go into, and the time that you're willing to take to talk about these things, because man, I can tell you, I have a lot of, I have a personal friend, and a lot of, I won't call them close friends, but friends that I'm aware that I know that are in that boat right now, where they're going like, I guess I'm going to use the courts. And it's like the court, I don't want to deter people from going to court unless they have to, but like when you get to court, I'll say my opinion, and I'll be very clear about my opinion. The humanity is removed out of it. There's not, it's more of it just like, hey, it's very regimented. The judge, the lawyers, they've seen so many cases that look like yours, that at that point you're just another number, and they're just one after the other, cranking them out. And so then after a while, it starts to get watered down, and the services they provide are no longer the services in which you were hoping to receive. You wanted genuine help, and you're like, unfortunately, you can't afford genuine help. So you got me, and based off of what you got and what you can tell me and what's going on, this is what I can do for you. And you're just still kind of lost, you know?
I'm glad you mentioned this. And if I interrupted you,
you're good.
Because I need to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was working with Ashley Burkett, she's a family lawyer, and you'll see her at the bottom of my website. She asked me, if you really want to get to know the court system, I'm going to share with you a course that you need to take. I paid like $40 for it. She said, when parents separate, when they go to the courts, they have to take this coping class. It's like 4 hours or something. So I pay like over $40. I take this class, and the whole time I'm sitting like this going, I don't understand.
Oh, man.
I don't understand. Like, I know they're speaking English, and they're just speaking words. What are they saying? They keep showing me pieces of footage, and there's text and illustrations, drawings. There's dry and dark humor and all this. What is happening? And so I took this class. I actually got the certification. I passed the test and everything. And then I called Ashley. I said, what did you make me do? I didn't understand a thing. She goes, that's how my clients feel, because the court will basically, they make you take that class. So you're aware of the laws and regulations and such. I said, what laws and regulations? There's so many.
Oh, yeah.
How am I supposed to know all this? I mean, I'm a very highly educated person, okay? I've got multiple degrees and certifications and all of that. And I speak multiple languages, but what on earth was that? So I want my money back. I want my 4 hours back. I laugh, but I feel so bad for those of you that go into the court system thinking that the judge will rule in your favor over the other parent. And then you don't get that judgment, and now you're bitter about it. Don't go into something where you're leaving it up to someone else to decide for you. There's no reason why the judge should cite or should decide for you or on your behalf or in your favor. Yes, you may have a case, but what if that judge doesn't see it that way? Have you ever thought about that? Would it be better that if the two of you spoke, maybe perhaps you would come to an understanding versus going with a blindfold on, taking it off and going, hey, judge, rule in my favor. And then he or she doesn't. And then that person tells you that you have to take this coping class and you have to pass the test and you have to get the certification. You have to mail it to whomever and then go see a lawyer. This thing drags on and on and on. Then what? Right? You have to think of the long term of what your decision will or won't do for your child or your children, or for perhaps this relationship that might have something where it might work, but you didn't take the right steps. You took the necessary steps thinking that everything will go in your favor. And what if it doesn't? What if it's far worse for you? Because when there are questions asked, you have no answers for. This coping class, and now I'm trying to become a mediator. Not to make my pockets filled with money, but to understand more parents. The more I look into it, the more I learn about it, the more I'm discouraged, because I don't want to be that guy to sign off things for a judge on your behalf and you still aren't satisfied. I hope that makes sense. Now, would it be better to talk to me and come to me for help before all that happens?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and that's, and again, one of the hardest parts is, so I can only speak for my own personal experiences. And, in the last, I guess my entire adult life, so 10 plus years now, I've been in the Army. And so my experiences are drawn from there. And, the Army has given me a lot of experiences, life experience, surprisingly, I guess you'd say. Like, usually when people think Army, military, you think like training, going off to war, battle and all that, doing all those things and traveling the world and whatever. There is that, right? I have traveled to a lot of different places, but the other aspect of it is you're still dealing with people. And when it comes to what I've learned with dealing with people is they come from many different backgrounds, many different, they have their own set of experiences, their own set of beliefs, their own foundations in which they came from. And I say that because, now I'm talking to these people and they're my subordinates and they're looking to me and my guidance and whatever the case might be. And, they'll come to me and they'll say, yeah, well, I think I'm going to get a divorce. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot. It's really, those words are really easy to say, right? But then, I know this individual, they have 2 kids with this person and or their spouse. And it's like, you guys have built a lot, built a lot, meaning your home, your kids, you've built this life together. And then just to so easily throw it away, I won't say recklessly, but just so easily throw it away is I'm like, well, have you tried having a conversation? They're like, oh, we try to talk, but she doesn't listen to me, or he doesn't listen when I talk, and he said this, she said that, and there's always this back and forth. And one of the things that I always recommend to people is like, hey, listen, I was like, I'm not saying I want to do it, but I am saying, have you guys thought about getting a mediator? The effectiveness of a mediator within a relationship, right? Because it allows 2 people to it's almost like a reset, right? So if me and my wife were to sit in front of a mediator and then this is like, hey, as of right now, I'm not here, go. And then you start going back and forth and having these conversations. This person is watching both of you and is like, okay, I can see here, take some notes here, boom, boom, some key things to point out. Coming back together and they're like, see, and they both did say at the same time, it's their fault, right? And it's like, well, actually, it takes 2 to tango, and it's both of you guys' fault, right? And it's just crazy to me because in the end, a lot of times when I recommend this to people, I was like, hey, the Army has a lot of these programs in which they could go see counselors, a couple marriage counseling, and they sit down with these individuals and they play that mediator role for them, and they come back and they're like, wow, we needed that. We needed that because so long we got so comfortable with just attacking each other that we weren't attacking the root cause of what was causing us to have these issues. And I say all these things because I don't wish for people to ever get to the point where they're separating, they're having to figure out the whole co-parenting thing. My goal, my hope is that parents find a way to stick together. And as you mentioned, it's work. Me and my wife will be married for 10 years this year, and it's been work the entire time. And when I tell my soldiers, I'm like, yeah, I met my wife when I was in 7th grade. She was in 6th grade. I think, yeah, that's when it was. Yeah, I was 7th grade. She was in 6th grade. That's when the first time I met my wife, right? We weren't dating, whatever, everything. That's when I remember I met her. Fast forward to 2011. That's when we start dating. And then 2014, we get married. So like we've had, years that we've known each other, whatever the case might be. So a lot of people credit to like, well, you've known this person for years, so you kind of know this and a lot of this individual. I was like, sure, but like we were kids when I was getting to know this individual, and I was like, we've had to grow as adults, and then we had kids together when we were still technically kids. I was 23, she was 22, so and in my eyes, that's still a kid, right? I was still a kid trying to figure out how to raise a kid, and I'm like, so like. We had to figure out how as adults, as parents, how we can connect together, how we can communicate each other, and to better. So we know at the end of the day, the word divorce is not coming out of our mouth to each other. That's not coming out of our mouth. That is not something that we will discuss to each other as if there's a problem that we cannot solve. And I'll summarize with this. I just did an episode with my buddy, one of my good friends. His name's Young. It was a couple episodes ago, and he went through this whole story about how, not a story, his experience of how his wife cheated on him. He tried to commit suicide, and all these things that he went through, and how he found out she lied to him multiple times about yes, no. One of the individuals in which she was cheating on him with was a person that was over his house, claimed to be his friend, claimed to just, was like, hey man, we're buddies for life. All of these things, right? And another person, this dude was planning on running away with his wife essentially and raising his daughter. This individual, right, my buddy Young, even though he went through all of that, he experienced all of that. If you talk to him today, you would never know all of that happened. Why did I say that? Because he can go, he sees his wife, or his ex-wife every day, because they have a daughter together. And I even asked him when we turned the cameras off and everything, I said, hey man, how do you do it? I was like, after you just told me this whole thing, like, I was like, how do you still look at this person and not just get angry? He was like, my daughter. He goes, we have a daughter together, and we've decided together we have an obligation to her. Whatever we have between each other, it didn't work out. What is what it is. She did hurt me, and that stings. He goes, I feel it a lot of times, but he goes, at the end of the day, our mission, my mission, my goal is to make sure my daughter's taken care of, and that's what I'm here for, and that's why I have no problem. They live, from my understanding, they basically live in the same community. So he's like 5 minutes away, and he's like, I will go down that 5 minutes down. Every day he goes home, he's going home, changing, going to his ex's house, and he's hanging out with his daughter and hanging out with them. And I was like, and that to me is based off everything you've been talking about and explaining. He's the first person that came to mind, because I was like, this is a perfect example of, you want to go to the courts, you want to go all these things and go through the experience, just make things worse. But if someone like Young can go through what he went through and then come out and say, like, at the end of the day, the priority is my kid. If that's not powerful enough, I don't know what is. I don't know what is else going to convince people. I don't want to take your business away, right? And but still, like, if that's not powerful enough, I don't know what else will help. Will really draw people to understand, like, being a parent should, if the parents don't work out and you guys split, being a parent should be your main goal in life.
But to say that everybody is that understanding, that mature, it's not being very specific to every relationship or every broken relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The severity of each relationship and what happened for it to be broken is going to be different for every person, and how they accept it or do not accept it, and how emotionally hurt they are and they are not. For this person, it just happened that the universe aligned and everything is still working out. But that's not the case for everybody. Mm. And I wish I could say that, first of all, that's incredible that things are working out for this man. And I hope that everything does forever for the rest of their lives, for the sake of their children. But what if it's a different type of demographic, a different culture, a different age? Maybe they're teenagers, right? Teenagers take things to heart way more than a 35-year-old would. Right. Maybe a person who's been hurt, who is, let's say, my age, a 45-year-old man, would take it differently than a 75-year-old. So I wish I could say that's empowering, that empowers everybody, and, I'm going to shut down and everything is going to be great for them. That's not true, because to each person, pain is a little different, and how they take it and whether they can let go or not. Right? Some people wear their heart in their sleeves. Yeah. And we say, oh, you're soft. Don't say that. Right? You can't say stuff like that. We really need to understand each person as the person that they are. For example, what you mentioned earlier was that you said, okay, first of all, thank you for asking people to go to see a mediator. But let me tell you something. Two people that want to be separate shouldn't be in the same room together. Why would you want to put opposing forces together? Yeah. Put two sides of the opposite sides of the magnet together. Tell me how that works out for you. Okay. Yeah. They will never stay together. They're not compatible. Mm-hmm. So for me to work with this family lawyer and deciding that it is not a good idea for the two people to sit together and just shout at one another and then blame the other person and go, you. It shouldn't happen that way. Yeah. They can split the cost that is already affordable, but have time with me, where let's say if this man wants to talk to me for X amount of time that I have, and then they've purchased the plan, I'm going to listen, because my company is based on what the client has to say. It's client driven, not coach driven. I ask the questions, you provide the answers. If you don't have the answers, I will ask you follow-up questions. I've got a plethora of things that I can use to help you. Not to extract things from you, but to understand you. Perhaps you can understand yourself, and to help you to listen to what the words coming out of your mouth. Listen to the sound. Listen to your heartbeat. Look at your face on the camera and see what you look like when you talk about the other person. And so when you talk to me separately, only then can we try to solve issues that fits your lifestyle best, your personality, and how you want to let go of this, or maybe you don't. Maybe you want to carry that for now. Whatever it may be, that we will get to the bottom of it with you being patient and somehow putting back the pieces together in some way. Now, I'm going to give you an example. A few weeks ago, so the court system has my number, and they referred somebody to me. This person said, well, we have two children together. My significant or ex doesn't get along with me. Every time we talk, we go in circles. But I need a mediator or whatever to help me. I don't know what you want. A mediator or whatever to help you with what? You have to be a little more specific than violent towards the other person. Whose services would you like to acquire? A mediator or whatever? A whatever would be a person standing outside 7-Eleven. A mediator would be appointed by court. Mm-hmm. A coach would be someone like you being promoted by Q here on Mediocre Dads, which I'm not a mediocre dad, by the way, and neither are you. That's a good one, by the way. If you want to acquire the services of a professional, then go into it knowing who this person is and what you want. Without the anger, put that away. Maybe write it down and then revise it. That perhaps you don't get along. Tell me a little bit about you. Where are you in your relationship? Just tell me a little something where when I talk to you, then we go somewhere. And so I wrote back and I said, well, I am a first-time parent coach. I'm a co-parenting coach. But I would like for you both to see me in separate sessions. What you say will not be spoken to the other person. It will be online, so this way it's more convenient for you. Let me know how I can help you, but make sure that both of you are on the same page, that if one of you sees me, so should the other person. It just makes sense that way, that I don't just coach one person and educate one person, and then the other person is left out completely. One person wants the coach's help, the other person wants the court system. So now nothing makes sense. Everything is left to the universe to decide for you. While one person is reasonable, the other person is unreasonable. And now you go in front of the judge, the unreasonable person wants everything, while the reasonable person gets everything. And then you blame me because I didn't help you, because you wanted a mediator or whatever. So if you are on the same page, if you need help, calm yourself down. Know exactly what you want and who you want that from. And if you can be patient with it and stop saying that you're too expensive. Let me tell you something. The cost of my courses is far less than the price you will pay for not knowing what I'm educating you with. What you're being equipped with me, costs way less than the price that you will pay for not knowing. I mean, look, I'm not going to stop you from going in front of a judge, but there are alternative ways. And one of the ways is the way that I created for all of you. Why? Because when I sit at this very dining table, I love this dining table. My daughter loves it. My wife. It seems like to be my home office. I don't even work in the office anymore. When I sit here with my family, believe it or not, and I swear to God that I just want anyone who's co-parenting, and I pray that they're sitting across from one another with their children at the same table, dining table, and enjoying a meal together. And laughing, having fun, and the two opposing forces are now one, united, looking at one another with hopefully love and respect more than anything, perhaps even admiration, because of what the two of you are doing for this very person that's sitting right there next to you. That's what I'm hoping for. That is what I created, not the mediator part, not the judge part, not the lawyer, but the coach who understands you, who went through 71 lawyers to find the one who would help me so that I can help you.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate all of your time and your willingness to articulate everything that you laid out for us, because as I said, it's the details that matter, and when anybody comes and watches, whether it's Mediocre Dads, my podcast, or anything, or whatever show, something, right? I want it to be informative. I want them to leave with something. I want them to show up here, be able to watch, listen, and then leave with something that's like, I didn't know that. Now I have another tool in my toolkit to utilize if need be in the future, or that's what I need right now, and I'm going to use that, and I'm gonna figure out what my next step looks like. So I definitely appreciate all of the things you've talked about and all of the things you laid out for us. Before we go though, I want to let you finish the podcast, if you will. I want to let you finish. Let anything that you want to say, anything that last message, any message you want to leave the audience with to really drive your point home. I'll let you do that. But before you do that, let me just Mediocre Dads, my fans I won't call my fans. I don't guess I really have fans. My audience, people watching. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mediocre Dads. I'm excited for where Mediocre Dads is going. More conversations like this are coming, and I think the impact, the knowledge, the information you guys get from this will definitely help you. And I hope you come back here for more. That being said, being mediocre is a choice, and refuse being mediocre. Gabriel, anything else you got? Anything else you want to finish with? The floor is yours.
I just want to say thank you, Q, for inviting me to Mediocre Dads. Yes, mediocrity is a choice, but to be better than that is also a choice. I'm going to tell you this. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up in the morning and you open your eyes, make sure you have affirmations that you say to yourself from tomorrow on until for the rest of your lives. That'll give you the energy to just stand upright, and just go about your day and make it the greatest day ever. So that when your child sees you or your children see you, they feel that energy. They go about their day with that same energy that you woke up with. Whatever your affirmation is for that day, say it to yourself over and over again. Whatever your goals are, whatever your dreams are, say it with love, with passion. If you want to become first-time parents, say, I am going to be the greatest first-time parent that's ever walked the face of this planet. Say it to yourself. Believe in that. And if you can do that, you will be that. But don't just leave it out to the universe to give you whatever, like we just talked about. Be very specific about what you want, and you will get that exact thing that you put your order in for, sooner or later, one way or another. But don't go into becoming a parent with no plan or some plan, or saying, I will start the first 7 years of my child's life during the first day or on the first day, because that child will come to life. Your wife will hold that child. The two grandmothers will be hovering over your wife, and then you will be left out of that room or laughed out of that room because now you want to be the man of the house and implement your first 7 years. That's not going to work that way. You start 2 years before. So, like, for example, I started 2 years before my daughter was born, and now she's about to be 2 years old. How many years did I invest already out of 7 years? 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already 4 years into her first 7 years when she was just a thought in my mind. Be well prepared before, because trust me, you will be surprised, like we were with the formula shortage in a COVID that delayed us for a year. And then my daughter being born 6 weeks early and going into NICU. Forget the room. Take care of the lady. That should be your priority. And if you can do that, gentlemen, I wish you the best in life. And for those of you who are co-parenting, I understand how tough everything can be and how tough everything is. If you need my help, those of you who are first-time parents or co-parenting, my website, I'm sure, Q, you'll put it up there,
Yes.
firsttimemomdad.com. Talk to me, and I will be there for you. I want to see things building, not just getting destroyed. So reach out to me, and I appreciate you all so much for listening.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabriel. Hey, as I said, guys, thank you for coming. And it's been another great episode, and Mediocre Dads out.